Welcome to Beyond the Buzzer, where real hoop stories get the spotlight. I'm your host, Brian Wethers, former Division I athlete and overseas pro. Each week, I sit down with players, coaches, and grinders who lived the game but didn't always reach the dream. From college standouts to overseas warriors, this is where we unpack the truth. Behind the journey, the highs, the lows, the heartbreak, and life after the final buzzer.
He's on his way, he's about to get paid, he's on his way to Hollywood. He's on his way, he's about to get paid, he's on his way to Hollywood. Show him the way.
Hey fans, welcome back to Beyond the Buzzer. I'm your host, Brian Wethers, and we have another exciting show for you today. But before we get into it, I'd like you to check out these highlights and see if you can tell me who this is. Welcome back to the show. As you can see, Mr. Bert Capel can play some basketball. We're going to welcome Bert to the stage now. Mr. Capel, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, Brian. How about you?
I'm good, man. I really appreciate you joining the show. You know the premises of this, man. It's Beyond the Buzzer. We like to talk about stories of guys that were champions of yesteryear that, were maybe close to that professional ranking or maybe even touched it just a little bit. And we like to hear that story. So we've had athletes from football to basketball, and we want to just kind of continue to expand on that. But I would like to start with your story. If you can tell us just a little bit about yourself and your background in the game of basketball.
Sure, yeah. I was born in Detroit, so I'm a big Lions fan. Yeah, eventually. I know it's been a while with us Lions fan having to make it, but we're finally, I think, turning a corner. But eventually moved to Kentucky, grew up there, and came to Evangel University in Springfield, Missouri. And the reason pretty much why I did it was they let me play baseball and basketball, and I really wanted to do both. So That's how I ended up there. Played both. My sophomore year, we ended up winning a championship, NAI high school.
Nice.
And went 35-1, had a pretty good team. And then shortly after that, when I graduated, I was helping the coach here with some basketball, just as an assistant or graduate assistant. But I really wanted to get in Division I. That was kind of my passion. So found a way to get on at Florida State, started out as a graduate assistant. I kind of worked my way up to what was called the recruiting assistant at the time, just another position there. I took a JUCO job for a year, and then I was at Stetson University for 6 years. And then when I was at Stetson, we'd gotten let go in 2019, so I was kind of looking for a place to land. Thought I'd come back to my school here at Evangel.
Yeah.
My plan was just to help volunteer for a couple of years and get back into Division I. And COVID hit, so kind of got stuck here. And then the head coach that was here, who was my coach for 40 years, ended up retiring and ended up taking the head job here. So been here now, just finished my 5th year.
Sweet.
And I don't know, didn't think I'd ever be back here, but here I am, and I'll take it one year at a time.
Nice. So if we can rewind a little bit, talk to me about like how your passion developed for basketball. So it sounds like you've played a couple different sports. I know for me, basketball stuck out just because the consistency of it, like the speed, the both ends of the floor. I always felt like watching football, they would take snaps and then there's this long reset, right? Basketball enabled me to kind of keep going. So was that kind of the same for you, or what was it that kind of like made basketball stick as the number one?
Yeah, good question. Growing up, I was taller than the other kids for my age, not a lot, but a little bit. And so I think it came somewhat easier in elementary school when the kids are smaller and you get rebounds and no one can stop you and you're putting the ball back. And I don't know, I just really enjoyed it. Had a lot of success with it. My dad did not play. He was a baseball, football guy. So, he kind of just let me do whatever sport I wanted. And honestly, I enjoyed all the sports. Football was probably my favorite. We didn't have a football team in high school, so played up until high school. But I don't know. I do like the pace. I like the competitiveness. I realized that the older I got, it's not all about size and athleticism. Obviously, the smarter you get, the more it helps you. And as a coach now, you see that. things I see now, I wish I would have seen as a player. And it's just a matter of just learning the game and understanding it and getting older. And I'm sure it's the same for you, right? The
I
more
want
you
to
get, the better you get. You wish you would have had that as a player.
that is God's that's God's cruel joke to humanity, right? Is to
It
give
is.
you all the knowledge once it's like too late to apply it physically.
Yeah, yeah.
But the
But
great
it is, especially those NBA guys. I mean, they
yeah,
you can see even when they progress from the college to the, and I shouldn't say NBA, I guess anyone who continues to play professional anywhere, but at first it's a lot of speed and athleticism and making shots. And then as you get older and maybe your body can't quite do that, you're still a good player because you're just learning how to play. So those are very effective things.
yeah, those are huge. So talk me through like when you started to get good, like when you started to get recruited, and like when did you start to realize like basketball is going to take me probably the furthest out of things. And I remember those light bulbs and moments of like your coaches giving you high praise. You can see the fans cheering certain differently when you're on the floor, and like you start to realize like I'm pretty good at this. Did you have moments throughout your career where you're like that kind of defined like this is the lane I want to stay?
I went to a smaller school, being in Kentucky, and I got to play a little JV and even smaller amount of varsity in 8th grade. And I thought, boy, I'm playing up here with these guys. And not that I was great, but I feel like I could keep up a little bit. I feel like as I got older, I started to get a little better. And honestly, it probably, now that you ask that question, my junior year, I felt like I was going to be a good player and had some pretty good freshman and sophomore years. But my junior year, first game, I scored quite a bit of points. I can't remember how many now, close to 40. And I remember thinking after that game, like that was pretty good. And I think I did all right. And I felt like from there, it just was like, if I keep working hard and getting after it, maybe there's something I can be good at, and then end up having a really good junior and senior year. And then the recruiting started picking up after that. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know what would have happened had I struggled a little bit my junior year, not as much, because the older you get, the more you play, the more they try to focus on you and make it tougher on you. And those were things that, just come along with the territory. But I don't know, probably starting my junior year, I started having success, and it certainly worked out from there.
Nice. So I guess, talk about like being recruited, right? You're starting to get good. And then, what made you narrow down the kind of schools you wanted to go to, and talk about like some of the early struggles. I know my freshman year of college, it was like, as good as you are in high school, it takes a certain, athlete, really elite, to kind of translate like right away from freshman year, and you're just balling, right? So that wasn't me necessarily. I had to take a little bit of time to kind of adjust. I say by like sophomore year, started really to rock, and then junior, senior year was very confident in what I was doing. Did you feel like that was similar to you, or did you feel like you came in a little more ready? How was your kind of initiation into college basketball?
When I attended here, I took a visit early in my year. My dad ended up going to school at Evangel, so that's kind of how I knew about the school originally, but never looked at the players. I knew the coach a little bit, and here I am as a good high school player thinking, oh, yeah, I'm going to go to Evangel, smaller school. And I really wanted to go to Division I. I worked out and tried some, just didn't work out. And I remember showing up thinking, these guys they're probably okay. And there were some really, really good players on this team, whether it be from transfers or high schools or small school guys that just didn't really get recruited. And I remember thinking this is a pretty good team. And my freshman year, it was an adjustment like anything. And I feel like that's with any good player, no matter how good you are, when you get to that next level, there's an adjustment you have to make. And, I felt like I did that, but there were some pretty good players in front of me where I felt like I had kind of changed my mindset, where I thought I was going to come in and, be the guy like anybody thinks as a freshman, to this is a really good team, and I'm going to try to play the role the best I can because there's older players in front of me that are good and I can learn from them. And I really felt like in high school, I mean, we had a solid high school team. And I felt like I was good as an individual, but I probably didn't quite know how to win, whatever that meant. And when I got here, there was some good seasons in front of me with some good players. And I just remember thinking the way the coaches were, the way the players were, they're like, hey, this is how we do things here. And if you don't do it, then you're not going to make it. I remember thinking, never thought about that before. So I just wanted to do the best I could, play the hardest I could. Didn't want to be that guy that messed up, especially as a freshman. I was able to get some minutes. And then my sophomore year was a year we ended up winning. We just had a really good year that we had a lot of guys back. But yeah, I feel like I just tried to play the role till those older guys left. And then my junior year, it was kind of to my year to start and do it. But I don't know. I mean, I'm not a selfish person by any means, but I want to shoot the ball and I want to score and I want to do things. But I felt like as good as that team was, I was probably going to be at my best and we were going to be at our best if I found a way to fit into what they were already doing instead of coming in and trying to do my thing. And it really helped me. I mean, even with coaching now, just understanding how to win. And I think that's, I don't want to put a percentage or how many people I think that are like that, but I do think that there are some people that just know how to win. There's some coaches that know how to win. There are players that know how to win. And is it one or two, three things no, I think it's just a lot of things: how to get the job done, how to play your role well, how to work hard, how to fit in, how to be a good teammate, making right decisions at the right time, all those things. And there are guys that do it and there are guys that don't. And that's what makes the better ones really good.
Amen. I was going to say managing emotions is probably a big part of that too.
Sure.
Coach, right?
Sure.
Just being able to manage your own emotions. I remember when I first started coaching, you start coaching with that same type of emotion that I would play with, right? And you realize very quickly, like, I'm not getting into this game. Like, I need to be able to like calmly see this, right? And just be able to like calculate it. But you're like, it's almost like you're getting ready to go rotate and do things. And you're like, nah, man, this is a different energy now.
Absolutely.
So that translation of just adjusting of how I wanted to coach, instilling some of the things that I used to do as a player, but understanding like the energy and how I deliver it has got to be a little different now.
And even on the flip side, just you're talking about that part, which is you're 100% right, but it's also managing it where you're not losing control all the time. There's a bad call, and instead of losing it and losing your head, hey, get locked in, get your teammates locked in. You control it, you pick up a foul, how do you adjust? I mean, you're right. It's just all those things. And, the better the guys are at it, the better they are to win.
Yeah. So I want to talk a little bit like early mentors. I know when I was in college, early struggles, there's coaches I can talk to, teammates, parents, older siblings. Who were some of the people that were kind of like in your corner that you leaned on a little bit, when times were rough and just adjusting through high school, maybe even college?
Yeah. I mean, in high school, it was pretty much my dad, my family. That was a big part of it. My high school coach was very important in that part. And then I think when you move to college, my college coaches too, I've never probably had that one person where I felt like that, hey, if there was a problem, I just needed to call. But I do feel like now as a coach, it's probably changed because, you got more responsibilities and you're trying to make it work and you're trying to figure stuff out. And there's a lot of coaches that have been in this coaching for a long time. And certainly everywhere I've been talking with people, those guys have been mentors along the way too. But I don't know that I had one. I mean, my dad was a baseball coach and he was my baseball coach. So cool. I think he instilled a lot of those things in me that carried over to basketball because, winning is winning. And I think that, when you're trying to figure out how to win and you got people in your corner, especially coaches that try to help you out. I mean, my dad was certainly one of them, and it's probably unique. Not everybody has their dad be their high school coach, but he certainly was. And it made for some long nights when we didn't play good, but that's just part of it, I guess.
Well, I'm actually going through that. My son's a sixth grader. He'll be in seventh grade, and I do coaching with him now. And it's trending in that area where he'll probably be playing for me. So
okay,
you a little bit and how that's supposed to go, because it's like you said, there is some tough nights. But I remind myself all the time as a coach, going like, the relationship is more important. Like I'm frustrated right now, and there's things I want to say, right, but like the relationship is more important. Like it's not gonna make or break me if I get critical on him at this moment right now, right?
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, you got to balance it out between being the dad and the parents, and that's what my dad had to do. And I'm sure I'm on the same track as you. I got a 9-year-old son, and you try to coach him when you can, and then you try to parent when you can. But it can be a tough thing. It's good and bad.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, man, I'm enjoying this conversation. We got to take a small break for just our sponsors, and we'll be right back.
Hey, it's Brent with Poppin' Wine Tours. Come out and join us 7 days a week. We got the best wine tour in town. All your tastings are covered. 17, 18 tastings, all of them are free. You get a driver, you get a guide, the best time in town. So come on out and join us today.
Welcome back to the show. If you guys are enjoying this conversation with Mr. Capel, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and leave us a comment and let us know what you're thinking. So without further ado, I'd like to offer or bring back Mr. Bert Capel to the show. Bert, welcome back.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. Appreciate you inviting me on.
Yeah, man, no, it's been a great conversation thus far. So we left off just talking about mentorships and guys. You know, it seems like your father was the person in your corner was as your coach. I know that was similar for me. I had a lot of good coaches. So talk about how, I guess that's kind of how it shaped how you coach now. You know, since you're doing this now, you've had a really good career. And how do you think your experience as a player has helped shape you as a coach? And what do you, I guess, who do you kind of mirror yourself after, if anybody?
Yeah. You know, when you ask who how my playing experiences shaped me, I think it has a lot. I think there's the two things. One of the coaches that I've worked with and certainly played under, and then just my experience as a player. And I say that because I think all of us as players, there are things that we like about coaches and dislike about coaches, you know, whether how they talk to you or how they present things or how they handle things under pressure, how they communicate. And, you know, I remember certain drills that I liked, and there were some I didn't like. And there were certain things I didn't like a coach did or said, and certain things I did. And I felt like as a coach, I remember those things because they stick out. And I try to be cognizant of those, you know, how I handle and talk to people, because I remember as a player being in a coach's office, getting yelled at or talked to or even praised. And so I try to do some of those things. Just because I like those, where if I didn't play, I don't know that I would know what to do in those circumstances, you know, for sure. But as far as coaching goes, I mean, I think out of all the places I've been, I've just taken a little bit of something from everybody. You know, I think the best thing to do when you're coaching is you don't want to be like other people. You want to be like yourself and your personality, because you try to be someone else and it just doesn't work. However, I do think that you can take things from people and try to find a way to apply it to, you know, your personality or the way you coach or the way you do things. And then if you can find a way to fit that all together, it just kind of works. And then you make adjustments. You know, I'm being too hard on the guys, or I got to back up, or I got to give them more time off, or, you know, the guys aren't responding well right now, or, you know, even call them in and try to get feedback on them. But I think as a coach, especially if you're a player, like I said, you remember the things you really like and dislike, you try to add those things, and then you take different things from, and not only the guys that I've worked or played under, but certainly stuff you see online or just talking to a player or coach, and those things help too.
No, I think you're right. I think as I've added to my coaching toolbox, I do recall like all the different coaches you've been through, and you do take the good and the bad. Sometimes you keep the bad because you realize like, that was actually a good one. I was probably just a little whiny back then, right? Like, and you realize like I can use this drill, but I'm gonna modify it, make it a little more. But, you know, the communication aspect is huge. Like, I'm sure you play for the coach where it's my way or the highway, and then versus a coach that like explains it. So now you know, and then like you buy in. So there's a lot of different ways, I guess, you could do it. But I think you make a good point of like, you got to be true to yourself, but also like, we're not inventing the wheel. You're taking from other people that you kind of like and you don't like. Right? So that's awesome. So I guess, when did the sport stop for you? When was your last game? When did you have to kind of shut it down and get into coaching?
So after college, I really wanted to play professional basketball. And I was helping coach here, and a situation came up where I could work out with an ABA team in St. Louis, because the team I'm at is in Springfield.
Nice.
And I went up there and I made the team, and I was kind of excited because we had some pretty good players. You know, former NBA guy was a coach, Cliff Livingston, and
Nice.
I don't know if you remember him, but it was a good group. We had some good players on the team. And then before kind of working my way to move up there, I got a call from the owner and was like, hey, we're not going to have enough money. I think we're going to shut the team down, at least for a year.
Yeah.
And I said, okay. I was kind of disappointed because I'd really kind of focused on getting there. And then I think it was after that where I'm like, I can keep trying to chase this. I can try to, work out and go overseas and do the tryouts and all that. And at the end of the day, I knew I really wanted to coach. I just did.
Yeah.
I wanted to play a little longer, but I knew I wanted to coach. And I think I just had an option. Hey, I can keep dragging this out for, another 4 or 5 years and try to figure something out, or I can go ahead and get my feet wet now and get on somewhere. And that's kind of where Florida State worked out. And it was, I can go there and start at the bottom and work my way up, or just keep delaying it and playing. And I think it was at that point that I just kind of made that decision. And I'm glad I did. As much as I would have loved to have played, I really enjoy coaching, and, I wasn't going to play forever. And, it's a tough business to try to get into sometimes, and it just takes time. Sometimes you can get in and get lucky and get where you want to be in a few years. And sometimes it takes guys a long time. And you see there's assistants now that don't even get a chance to be a head coach because they've been assistants so long. So that's kind of where it was for me at that point. But yeah, I'm kind of glad I made that decision then.
No, you made the right decision in terms of coaching, because I remember kind of being in that same predicament where I was playing, I was enjoying it, and once I realized I wasn't going to like cross over to the NBA, that was always the goal. Then it became, all right, let's see how far I can travel and, how long I can, stretch this out. But in hindsight, in terms of like coaching, when I came back and wanted to get into coaching, it was almost, a detriment to have played so long, just because you had been away and now you're at a position where, you're looking to start a family and, can you take the grad assistant job now that pays you nothing, it's not, it doesn't really add up. So the timing of it, I think, was perfect. Some will say, oh, you missed on the pro career, but in hindsight, I think you've established, yourself in the college ranks, which is at this age, a lot more valuable. So
and I think it would help you too doing that. And there's, obviously playing a while. Again, I've had so many people, hey, what's the right way to coach Division I or be a head coach? And I mean, there is no way,
it's who you know.
Guys getting there. But even with your route, you've experienced things, you've played for different coaches, you've got to experience different offense and defenses and, agents and understand how that works. And so, you've probably got to, you can use those things to help your players along the way where something I didn't quite get to experience as well. But it's just, there's all different ways to get into coaching. And I think the more contacts you can make and the more people you can coach with and play under, it just helps you get a better understanding of basketball and people and the different styles that are out there and end up figuring some of your own. I'm sure you've taken some from those professional careers, just like you have college, and kind of put it where you're at now. So that's good.
Yeah, 100% have. So I guess what you're doing now, in coaching, if you can kind of relate it or talk about like how you've transitioned from the attitude of a player to a coach and what, how that's been. And do you prefer one or the other? Like, do you miss playing, or do you kind of go like, I think I was a player to be a coach?
The biggest thing between playing and coaching, and you could probably attest to this too,
sure,
is when you played, the coaches and it all revolved around you. You know what I mean? Like, you get your workouts in, you get where you're supposed to be, them calling and making sure you're doing, them rebounding for you, they're working you out, all that. And then you go to the coaching side, you're now doing it all for the players. You're working them out. You're trying to show up and trying to make sure they go to class. And so, I mean, there's part of me that certainly misses the playing part of it, where it kind of revolves around you and
show up.
You're doing. Yeah, exactly. You don't have to worry about preparing for the games and, getting ready for practice, putting a practice plan together and going on the road to recruiting or whatever it is. You just show up, get there early, stretch a little bit, get ready for practice, get your shots up. But on the coaching side, you're watching the film and you're trying to get better and you're staying up at night. And, it's just.
Which does make the winning a little more reward though, right? Because you do put so much time into all that. Now you're like, when you win, you're like, hey, I know why we won. Like,
for sure. Absolutely. And then you feel like that the guys are buying in and you're trying to put them together and they're working hard. And, when you're a player, it's kind of about you a little bit. I mean, it's about your teammates and doing that type of stuff. But as a coach, it's probably less about you now, more about making sure those guys are in the right spot and doing the right thing and staying out of trouble. but again, as a player, you remember what, how it was back then. And as a coach, you try to do your best to use those things and help the players how they are now. And, as a player, it doesn't matter how good you are. When you're coaching, the players don't really know how good you are. They give you a hard time, feel like you can't play anymore. The game's passed you by. It was easier to play back then. All those things that you hear.
Oh, yeah.
And we as coaches just take it now. And we say, well,
It destroyed you, but
but I guess that's part of it, and it'll be that way for them eventually.
Yeah. So talk about like what's next. Or what goals you have now as coaching. Like you're pretty established. As you're looking forward, 5-10 years from now, what do you want to tackle in this college arena?
Yeah. I'm at the school that I played at, and I really wanted to coach Division I for a long time. And it's still, always in the back of my mind if the perfect opportunity presents itself. But I'm at my school now, and I really, really enjoy it here. There's some good things going on here. We built a brand new arena, and they're working on brand new dorms now for the school, and just kind of seeing where it was when I went to school here to where it's transitioned to now. It's a really good school, really good academics, really good professors, and good faith-based organization, good Christian. Standards. And I don't know, I've really liked it. I've enjoyed being here. There's a lot of professors and even some of the coaches that were here when I played. And so just coming back and getting to, be on the other side of it here where I was a player the first time around. But I don't know. I really want to see Evangel do well. I want to see all the sports do well because I'm supportive of all of them, just being an alum. But I really want to see the men's basketball team do well. We won a championship, 25 years ago when I was here. And, we made the Elite Eight a couple years ago, which we got close, but I still feel like there's more in the tank for the guys. And, if we can find a way, it is getting more competitive from the fact that, with the transfer portal, it's just different now. It changes things. You think that certain team's not going to be very good, and they go out and they get 3 or 4 transfers, and it just changes the game, and then we got guys here that are good players that now they're looking to play other places too. So the whole dynamic has changed in college, and it affects every level. Probably not quite as much here as it does at the Division I level, people leaving and transferring all the time. But, we still have our fair share of guys we'll either bring in as transfers or guys that want to play higher and do that thing too. So I don't know. I mean, we got a good group coming back next year. We had some kids that sat out as red shirts that I think will be pretty good. Added a couple transfers. And so we'll see. I mean, as long as guys are working hard, they're playing hard. I think as a coach and alum here, I just want people to feel like when they come to Evangel, they're part of a family. And that way, no matter how long, 5-10 years from now, when they graduate, they can always come back, whether it's me or somebody else here. But it's a good group and it's a good school. And I'm really enjoying my time here for sure.
Nice. Well, my hat goes off to you because the landscape of college basketball is just so different now, with the portal, like you talked about, the NIL money. It's very difficult, I would think, to navigate, especially if you haven't been doing it in a long time. And those coaches who have been doing it a long time, you've seen a lot of them step down just because of how it's run right now. So I can imagine that, at the high school level, we deal with that now where, kids are transferring every year and, some kids will play 3 to 4 different high schools, and at college, it's the same thing now. So it is a difficult arena to navigate, I'm sure. But I would imagine at the level you guys are coaching, it's a little different. You probably get a little more like return and probably just the pure basketball of guys like bonding and knowing they're going to be together for a couple of years versus now, I talked to some of the Division I coaches that are, I went to school with, and they've got to replace 9 to 10 guys every year, and guys are going into the Final Four ready for tip-off. 6 of their guys are into the portal before the game starts, So how do you navigate that in terms of, we grew up in systems where you bought in, you were a good teammate, you cared about the guy next to you. And I see it leaning more and more towards just how much money am I going to make and how many shots am I going to get? And I need to be playing more than him. And I don't see the team aspect.
Sure.
You do in the preseason when no minutes are distributed, but
sure. Yeah.
Start getting distributed. Then
I think you make a good point, especially coaches now. A lot of those guys are making decisions not because of the school or coach or location like it used to be a little bit. It's almost purely money.
Yeah.
And when you're coaching guys who I'm sure, are going to their school. They're saying to themselves, what? I gotta play well. I gotta play well. I gotta find a way to make it. If I can just do good for a year, I can make some money. I can go somewhere else. And as a coach, when you're trying to get everyone to buy in and you're trying to have a good team, it is hard, I'm sure, harder in the past to get those guys to buy in, because their natural thing is not, everyone loved to win a championship. Everyone loved to compete and do well. But I'm sure the players in general see them as more value in, hey, if I can do well, and we love to do well. If we do well as a team, it helps. But if I do well, I get a chance to move up and make more money. And as a coach, trying to get everyone to buy in and say, hey, if we all do well, then it works well out for everybody. But can you imagine now just recruiting and saying, hey, you come here, just get here for a year, we'll find a way to win. Now you're going 1 year at a time. And
you got to win big right away. Like every year is like championship or bust, you know, because if you don't, and even if you win it, right, someone else can just buy out your top guy. And then that's that, at least it's changed the coaching, because I've talked to, Coach Lavin's a good friend of mine in San Diego. I would go see him and kind of just pick his brain on all this stuff. But he's basically, he was saying you're coaching like 10 months at a time. You got a roster 10 months, that's your group. Then after that, you kind of reset. Before you knew you'd have a core of guys at least 3 years. Right. So that's interesting times, man. So I always like to ask, as we kind of, wrap this combo up, you're having been through it, and I'm sure, do you have kids now?
I do. Three.
So what message do you have for like our youth, right, that you would kind of instill, having walked your walk and done what you've done? What would be your message to your up and coming hoopers that have like high aspirations to play deep ball or even professional?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is just to work hard. I really think that's the biggest thing. I've got two daughters that are, one's freshman in high school, one's 8th grade or 7th grade. And, you get in this little bubble because you think you're a good player, and then you forget there are thousands of athletes all over the country, and even more, especially internationally, at all sports and all levels playing, where if you're trying to make it, you're trying to be a good player and you want to get a scholarship, you want to go to college, you want to play at the next level, you have to work hard. To me, that's the biggest thing. As a faith person, obviously you got to put your trust in God and just trusting that he has your, steps ordered and you're trying to do the right thing. But, there's a level of, hey, you're trusting God to do what he's going to do. But at the same time, you got to put the work in and do what you need to do. And if you want to play at the next level, if you want to play in high school or start and get a college scholarship and make it and play overseas and play in the NBA, whatever it is, you have to find a way to outwork the people around you, because they're working hard too. And there's just so much now access to trainers and gyms and shooting and teams and everything that if you don't outwork the other people next to you, you find yourself getting in trouble, and that you wish you would have done it earlier. So I think hard work is certainly high up on that list.
Amen. Bert, I appreciate you being a guest, man. You've been excellent, really good. I know our viewers are going to get a lot out of this, and I'm wishing you the best, man. You're I feel for you. We're kind of the same boat where we're kind of old school coaching in a new school type of environment, but you seem to have a pretty good grasp on it. You're speaking all the right language. And I'm sure any athlete that's able to play for you, man, is going to benefit. So best of luck, man. And I appreciate you coming on the show.
Thanks, Brian. I appreciate it.
Likewise. All right. Fans, we want to thank you again. Please remember to like, subscribe, or comment, and we'll come back to the show next week as we continue these conversations. And again, you guys make the show. Keep pouring in, and we appreciate it. We'll be back next week. Thank you.
He's on his way, he's about to get paid. He's on his way to